Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios. We're part of the Believe in Buzz radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as Buzz 2 106.7 in Central Arkansas. So please like, rate, and review our podcast. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark, as well as Bet Online, which remains the number one spot for all bet sports wagering action in 2023, from football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. Don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV to get 50% on your first bet. BetOnline, where the game starts. And special show tonight, we want to introduce the newest part of the team. Adam Hall from Hog Sports over on the Facebook community joins us. He will be joining us once a week on our hour-long shows. So, Adam, thank you, for accepting to come on, and kind of a collaboration between both of our fan bases. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what becomes of all this.
Definitely. I was surprised, but we've been in talks or wanting to do this for a long time, so it's good to finally get this going.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of the things that I know, some will be like, well, your two fan pages and kind of, but it's like, it's all about spreading Arkansas sports, and y'all have done an amazing job. Hog Talk, we've built it from the ground up. And, with the departure of the past co-host, it's easier to have somebody to talk with about Razorback sports along with the guest, especially hour long. So reached out to you, and the cool thing is we're from the same area of the state, so we're going to be able to bring some live content, be able to do some live shows and maybe some post-reaction shows. So, but getting into the football season and we're in talking season per se. What's been kind of a surprise that you would say coming into this season, like an outlook, some fans' takes, schedules, and what their predictions are? What are you thinking coming into this SEC season?
I look at every season coming in as we're always going to have one of the toughest schedules that's out there in the entire country. Playing in the SEC, especially the SEC West, which I know will be no more coming up, but we're always going to have that card dealt with us. I think that for losing what we've lost in both coordinators, I believe on defense, at any point in time on defense this season, we could be playing 11 transfers, 11 new faces at any one point in time. So you just have to trust what's going on. And I know that's always said, that's overused, trust the process, but what else can you do? We're not there day in and day out. I think that both the defensive coordinators came in, have done a tremendous job with what they have been given. You can see that with even the 2024 recruits that they've been grabbing. So we've seen what Dan Enos' offense has done at Arkansas before. We saw what it did afterwards at the other schools that he was with. So I think he's going to bring a different style with KJ than what we saw obviously under Bryles. But I don't believe there's any reason to. I don't believe there's a concern there. I know a lot of people talk about the who's going to be the go-to guy, who's going to be the Traylon Burks, who's going to be that guy, and I don't think you necessarily have to have that guy. Have 3 or 4 guys that can get the job done at any. And I think we saw that in the bowl game. And then Matt Landers stood out, which I know he's gone too, but. It's going to be spread. This wealth is going to be spread around.
And with a program, you buy in, and it doesn't matter who you have. If you can, train these guys up and develop these 2 stars, 3 stars into legitimate starters. I mean, we've seen it in the basketball program. We've seen it in the baseball program. I mean, with KJ and Rocket, you got Dominion. You're settled right there. Your offensive line, you're settled in the running attack. If you just get a tight end or a receiver, someone that you can make them respect that passing game along with that running game, that's where the ceiling becomes to that 8 to 9 win season. And of course, your defense is, you have no idea what you're going to get from your defense this year. And also, I want to get your take on it. Are we putting too much pressure on Sam Pittman this year to just because he had 9 wins, he dropped a little bit, and now you're losing both your coordinators. You're losing a lot of key players on defense. Is there too much pressure being put on him to win 8 or 9 games this season?
I don't know if there's too much pressure. I've looked at the past few years and then now, and I kind of look at where he's at in the contract. And I looked at this year and potentially half of next season as kind of the do or die with him. And that's even after we've gotten new coordinators. You look at he's coming in year 4.
Yeah,
you're going to lose coordinators. That's a part of it. So his job relies on how this team produces. So I think if they're at a 6-6 or a 5-7, I think the question will have to be asked: is he the right person for here? I think that we have to look at as fans that we can't always. I know we like to fall in love with the guys who love us, who love to be here, and it's one of those things that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I would rather move on than it be too late, and we're in a situation and say 2 years down the road that we're almost stuck and we're going to have to completely rebuild again. I think that I look at the defense as with the new coordinators. I mean, we were ranked 120th last year nationally. So how much further can you really drop?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the offense obviously is, I think they're going to be sound. Coach Morgan that came in for the tight ends position, he is a recruiter. He is a tight end man. He is a tight end coach. I have no qualms with where the tight ends will be now or in the future.
Well, and with losing, you thought that Kendall Briles was going to be your offensive coordinator from the coach's standpoint, not the fans. Then he ends up doing his song and dance. Well, Dow Loggins in between goes to South Carolina. Then you end up getting Enos, which Sam Pittman already had his man. He already had Enos in his back pocket. Hunter Yurachek and him decided, we're not going to play no more games. I think that says a lot about, one, Hunter Yurachek and Sam Pittman, where they want to take this program because they didn't just settle. They didn't say, woe is me, we got played by Kendall Briles, and he went – he ended up having his guy come in. But we were talking to John Neighbors the other day and talking about how important this year is, because if Sam Pittman per se goes 5 or 6 wins this year and that seat starts to get hot, and then you follow it up with another 6 to 7 and say they do end up parting ways with him in 2 years, now it's going to take another 2 to 3 years to build the program back up. I've said this is the most important, and I know I just asked about the pressure, but I think this is the most important year for this Razorback football program since before they hired Bobby Petrino, because of the trajectory of where this program wants to go and where it's going to go. Because if you have to start over with a new head coach 2 years down the road with now OU and Texas planted in the SEC, it's going to make it really difficult to be behind the 8 ball. And we know LSU, what they're doing. Texas A&M is finally going to get together and be competitive and be that top 1 or 2 team every other year or whatever. But then you're adding in other teams and no divisions now.
Yeah, I think especially the pressure definitely is on this year, or however you want to put it, because with Texas and OU coming in, like you said, you cannot be behind the 8 ball. That's why I was hoping that they would be at a different points coming into this season, but obviously you can't predict what's going to happen. Like you said, Yurachek and Pittman knew who they were going to get. I know all the fans like to track the planes and see who's what, when, where, and try to figure out what's going on. He was in Maryland. People were looking at recruits, what recruit is going to be transferring, who we're looking at, and he was up there for a coach. And that was before Briles even announced. So they already knew what was going on. They were already planning who was going to follow him.
Yeah, and before we go on, we have to Hey, that this episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. And let's talk about sex, guys. Remember the days when you were ready to go. Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. And listen up, BlueChew.com is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in a chewable tablet and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever the opportunity arises. Does it work, and do you think you need it? Hey, try it for a month and see, and we think you're going to love it. Blue Chew wants to help you out have better sex, and discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it, and we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code BUCKET at the checkout and just pay $5 for the shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code BUCKET to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. Yes, I mean, and moving on with that, it's more what Dollar DP says. Most important year, that's the underlying thing we're not talking about. We talk about KJ, we talk about the running, but if they don't block, you're in a world of trouble, because there goes your passing game. There goes your running game. And more importantly, yeah, I think this is the most important year for this O-line. But I think this is going to be an O-line that's ready. I think this program's hungry to win. You got Cade is wanting to go out. He wants to go out as one of the greats, or he wouldn't have come back. I mean, let's get that. I know everybody says he's the best, he's the best quarterback in the SEC, but I think he wants to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks at Arkansas. And I'm talking about not prisoner of the moment. I'm talking the way we talk about Matt Jones, the way we talk about Clint Stoner. I know Ryan Mallett's name gets thrown in there as one of the greatest arms, but you look at people like Tyler Wilson, Austin Allen, Brandon Allen. I mean, they're talked about, but not as much as they talk about Matt Jones and that legacy. I think he wants to leave that legacy as being that quarterback that, getting them out of the ashes and getting them out of the cellar, being a laughing stock in the SEC. I think this is going to be a huge year for him, for his proving that he wants to go down as the greatest quarterback ever.
Yeah, and I mean, every year that he's been here, there's been little bits and pieces of just something that they've missed, a game that they lost that they shouldn't have. And I think a lot of that has left bad taste in his mouth, along with everybody's, fans, coaches. But I think that he has unfinished business. I think he was also probably looking at it from the business side too, of the quarterbacks that went in this past draft, that, if he has another solid season, I mean, he's going to be talked about in the top 5 to 10 quarterbacks drafted, not positions, but quarterbacks. Because if you're the number one quarterback in the SEC, you're going to be talked about as a top quarterback draft pick.
Yeah. And look at, Levis at Kentucky, look at Rogers, Mississippi State, you don't have to be, and if you get that hype behind you. But another thing with Enos, and another topic that Dollar DP brings up, is it's the best thing that can happen for KJ, but it's also the best thing that can happen for Sam Pittman, because we're talking about chips on the shoulders. Look how they both left Arkansas. Look when they worked together, and they were the most efficient offensive run team in the country when they had things clicking. And everybody wants to go and well, how did this go when Enos was here the last time? I mean, you had one of the biggest O-lines. I mean, you had a bigger O-line than NFL.
Oh, yeah. Like they outweighed by 30, 40, 50 pounds whenever they had them together.
Exactly. When you're bringing your O-line up on a graphic during the NFL saying Arkansas has a bigger – I think it was the Philadelphia Eagles that was playing a game, and they brought up the Arkansas O-line. I mean, that's what's going to be huge too, is once you start – but you got to produce. Another thing, coming into this recruiting, I know that Arkansas has kind of struck out and went down the wayside when it comes to the last – I think they said they got one out of the last 7 targets. But you got to win. I think that's another aspect of how important. You can't be like a Princeton-style basketball offense and run off the 3. You can't build your program just off the portal. You have to be able to get those guys to come in and keep them. Along with, of course, yes, the portal has helped Arkansas just as much as anybody else, but you can't just solely think that, all right, we're going to get 4 or 5 guys on each side of the ball out of the portal every year.
Yeah, and I mean, it's completely different than what Musselman's doing with the basketball team. With football, I mean, you need to get these guys in early. You need to develop them. The thing that I look at when it comes to our recruiting, I know everybody wants the homegrown kid, the local kid from down the road, and I understand some people believe that stars don't matter. A lot of the people that we see, then they're like, oh, this person was a 0 star, this person was a 1 star, 2 star, and look where they're at now. That's honestly rare.
Mhm.
In the state of Arkansas, and I know a lot of it, I mean, the population, but there's not a lot of high star athletes currently in this state. So the ones that are here, Arkansas definitely needs to be grabbing. I believe the kid from Benton just committed to Mizzou, and he was one of the high, picks or stars in the state. So things like that need to stop, but they've got to get that pipeline back to the other states that we've had in the past.
Well, and I understand, and yes, you need to go and try to get your top guys in the state, but if it fits your needs,
Exactly.
you can't just go get the number one quarterback because you want to go get the top quarterback. But also, you look at what Courtney Neifel's done in softball.
Mm-hmm.
You look at what that has done for softball around the state with UCA, Southern Arkansas, Arkansas Tech. These the girl from Benton that went to Stanford. I mean, that was just anomaly. She wanted to play 2 sports. They offered her 2 sports. But when you start recruiting and you want to be top of the SEC, you can't just appease everybody in Arkansas when it comes to recruiting. You've got to start recruiting nationally. You've got to be able to know that you can go into Texas, you can go into Florida, you can go into any state and have a shot. Just like look at Eric Musselman, because he is taking his guys and putting them in the pros.
Mm-hmm.
If Sam Pittman starts doing the same thing, getting these guys, these portal guys, or these guys out of high school and putting them into the pros, that's what they want. That's what kids want nowadays. The whole, other than KJ, because of everything he's endured and this senior class, what they've endured with this program, most importantly, these guys want to go to the league. And if they start winning, they start getting guys in the league, you're going to have better success of getting these kids. And yes, you need to go get the guys out of the top guys out of Arkansas, but they fit your system, and that's the biggest thing. It's weird how, yes, everybody freaks out because will they let another in-state kid go? Well, I mean, your grand scheme is to win and you're in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think nationally other than just in your state.
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, it's got to fit your scheme. If it doesn't, I mean, we just got to shrug it off and move on if that kid goes elsewhere. I mean, whether it's he wanted to come here and it didn't happen, or if he just didn't want to, it didn't fit for whatever reason. I look at these coaches, I mean, they know more than we do on who they're recruiting, who they want, who they need. So if they're not going after a particular kid, but a fan thinks they are, there's a reason that they're not being gone after. And we need to accept that.
Well, and also, let's be real. I think we're putting way too much emphasis on these kids that haven't even graduated high school. Who's to say even if they did come to Arkansas a year or two down the road, they weren't going to enter the transfer portal? Or if they do go to Missouri or go to another school, realize, look at Criswell. Went to North Carolina, things didn't pan out. Guess what? He's coming back. So, I mean, you never know where a kid's going to end up. It's not the end of the world because guess what? The kids have a chance now to enter the portal. Hey, if Arkansas wasn't dead on him and this kid's got a chip on his shoulder and he balls out at Missouri, hey, best wishes to him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the end of the world like it used to be. When you lost a kid, you lost a kid. They can still come back, and we've seen it. Arkansas has had just as much success grabbing the portal kids than the ones that they've recruited out of high school.
Exactly. And I mean, if you can, in the portal, go grab another Drew Sanders from Alabama that did not get any playing time whatsoever, go do it. Because now, look, I mean, he put Arkansas on the map with linebackers going to the NFL draft, not Alabama. He came here and showed out. He got to start. I mean, he did everything he did. And, I mean, he was one of the talks of the combine and the draft for his speed, his athleticism, his hitting, I mean, everything. And that's why I look at, too, like with, all these kids and with Musselman, how it is getting our name out there in these the leagues, the combines, the training camps or whatever. I mean, all we have seen so far in the NBA Summer League has been nothing but Arkansas talk and Eric Musselman, even
Exactly.
on games that these guys aren't necessarily in, because they're always there.
And outside looking in, everybody's like, "Oh, look at Musselman. He's making it about him." But Musselman represents Arkansas. Musselman is not promoting his own brand. He is there
Exactly.
to promote Arkansas. And I love it. I think it's awesome but Arkansas is also one of those states that's unique. That's all there is when it comes to Arkansas. So when you see Eric Musselman, you think University of Arkansas, Sam Pittman, University of Arkansas, Hunter Yurchek. You're not trying to figure out who these guys represent. You know who they represent in the state that follows them and the fan base. I mean, and the media knows. Hey, we're going to program Eric Musselman on all these summer league games because we know Arkansas fans are going to watch. They're going to listen. And I laugh because another point that me and John Neighbors was talking about the other night was you got guys like Jake Crane and Josh Pate and Furman. All these guys love to poke either good or bad when it comes to the Arkansas fan base because they know it's going to get interactions. If they say something really, really good about Arkansas, they're going to get a lot of likes. If they trash Arkansas, they're going to get a lot of hate. But that's what they want. They want the interaction, and that's what Arkansas Twitter does per se. That's what the fan base does. Facebook does, and they thrive off of. Any attentions, whether it's positive, negative, it's still attention when it comes to the University of Arkansas.
Exactly, and especially when it comes to internet, what they do, what we're doing, whatever. I mean, it's all about the clicks, the interactions, the likes, the comments. So, I mean, those guys know what they're doing. Because the Arkansas fans they're gonna see the university, the Razorback, the whatever, the whoever, and they're gonna read it, they're gonna look at it, they're gonna watch it, they're gonna share it, they're gonna comment on it.
And both of what we do, we know. I mean, because we post a snippet on our pages, and you just look at the traction that it gets and the likes in the hundreds and the thousands, because that's what they want to see. They want to see a guy go. Look at the pros, Pro Hogs and Anthony Black, like when they painted the sphere up and did Anthony Black's picture on there. Anything that promotes Arkansas and what these kids do, it's once a hog, always a hog. And I love the fact that, these fans are very passionate about this state because it makes jobs easier for us because we know that they're passionate. We're passionate about the state. And we want to do the best we can. And that's another reason why, we form this collaboration. We want to be able to bring a different style podcast and audience and introduce the state to why we have one of the best fan bases, not one of the, I say we have the best fan base in the country, just because I've been around different fan bases and I see the passion, no matter what sport, and it's spread down to, soccer and softball and tennis and men's golf, track and field. I mean, it's not just the big three when it comes to Arkansas.
No, and I mean, even if you look at the traction in some of the rec league teams, the hockey team, I mean, their following is growing like crazy.
Yep.
And it's just because they have that Razorback on their chest and the fans are going to support them.
Exactly.
And that's why I think, the question was recently brought up on how would a pro team do in Arkansas? And I know we're now getting this professional soccer team up in Northwest Arkansas. But, if you look at baseball or football, basketball, whatever, this state is the Arkansas Razorbacks. So I think if you put a professional team here, it's not going to get the draw that Arkansas gets.
No, it won't, because it's almost like it's too late.
No,
dog new tricks. You can't bring an NFL or an NBA team. Now, the money's here, but you're not going to get, I would say, 70, 80,000 fans to go watch a new pro team. One, because we all know how new teams are going to be. They're not going to be very good. You're not going to just build a new program and all of a sudden they're contending for a Super Bowl or NBA Finals. I think where Arkansas is located, you got Kansas City right down the road, Oklahoma City and Memphis, and they draw to those, or even Dallas. It's crazy that, Dallas and St. Louis draw more than Oklahoma City, Kansas City, and Memphis just because they've been around longer. I like these, a lot of people go to the Naturals games. When I was a kid living on the Air Force Base in Little Rock, went to the Travelers games. Those teams like that thrive because you know you're not going to get 20, 30,000. You don't expect to get a full house every single night.
Yeah, and especially like with the Naturals. I mean, being the Kansas City Farm League, I look at it like from coming as a Cardinals fan, I kind of just have to get over that and support them for being the Northwest Arkansas Naturals. I get over the fact that they're a Royals affiliate and just move on from it. But with some of your other, if you're not in minor leagues, I think it's harder to get the draw in this area because everybody too is so, like you're saying, they have their teams that are in Kansas City, down the road in Dallas, or wherever it may be, even out to Nashville. So they're stuck in their ways there, and I don't blame them one bit.
Well, and you got to think too. Look at this is something that's not really been talked about when it comes to the soccer teams in Northwest Arkansas. Look at the Hispanic culture in Northwest Arkansas, the Marshallese Islands, the Laotians, the Vietnamese. The Hispanic culture that's there. That is a growing sport. Like, it was crazy because I even was at over by Rogers High School. And I seen people playing cricket. I mean, it was a full-on game. They're playing in a field cricket, and it was the influence that what Walmart, JB Hunt, and all these industries have brought different nationalities into Northwest Arkansas. A sport like you build a 5,000 seat stadium for this pro team to come in, men's and women. It's going to do really good because the money you're putting into a 5,000 seat stadium, you might get half of that, but if they make the playoffs, you're going to sell it out. I think it's going to be very exciting. I've been to a couple of these indoor league games and these tournaments that are played. I'm telling you, it's intense. It's one of the things that it gets very intense because there's a passion for that sport in Northwest Arkansas.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing. I think it was last month, maybe the month before, when the news broke that Messi was going to be joining the Miami MLS team, and the MLS, I figure in this country, you're going to be looking at MLS in top 3, top 4 professional leagues in the next 5 to 10 years because soccer is growing so much in this country. And it helps too in this area when you have a team like Arkansas in the college level that is competing in the top 10 year in and year out.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact that that's where I think they don't have a men's team, but they have a women's team. I think the women's team will gather more of a following. But when you look at the MLS and what they've tried to do with getting stars, I mean, let's be real. I mean, past their prime. I mean, they did it with Beckham. They done it with Zadalan. They brought these guys in, and it worked for a season, but it just doesn't catch and take a hold. And I think it's just a thing that, just like with Messi, hey, he's almost like a John L. Smith. Give me a big check for 1 year, and I'm going to ride off in the sunset. It does good for the sport in the social media era where it's click and let's move on. But I don't think that it's going to catch and hold for the next 5-10 years because who remembers really Beckham played, in MLS, and it really become popular more than one season. Who remembers Zadalan coming over and playing in the MLS? Nobody really remembers that because it's just not that sport that catches on. Because again, MLS is way behind when it comes to the NBA, Major League Baseball, and NFL.
And I know that I'm the same way, so I'm guilty of this too. When the World Cup's coming around, that's all we see, and so that's all people talk about. And so a lot of the soccer news is breaking right around a lot of the World Cup talk. So soccer as a whole has traction, but it's what is it going to do when you're not talking about the World Cup?
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer. There's no sporting event that's bigger than the World Cup. I mean, I've watched some very good matches. There were a long time ago. I'm trying to think of the country. It was in the Horn of Africa. Drogba was one of the stars, and they stopped a civil war so they could watch their team, Ivory Coast. First time they ever made the World Cup, and they stopped a civil war. There's actually a picture in the Time magazine of 2 tanks pointed at each other. So, I mean, you got a sport is going to change the world. We look at what, when President Bush threw the first pitch out during 9/11, we look at, being able to stop a war. That's where sports to me resonates. Of it changes the world and in a time where we need it so badly, I'm ready for sports to like unify us again, opposed to dividing us like it has been.
Oh yeah, because even our own fan bases, I mean, we see it in the comments every single day, just the constant. It can be the littlest thing, and somebody's attacking somebody over their point of view. I mean, I don't know how many uniform comments and arguments I see
Oh, yeah.
day in and day out. And sometimes I poke the bear a little bit, and with my countdowns in Hog Sports, I'll have a picture of somebody in one of the anthracite uniforms just to
Oh, yeah.
make somebody a little mad a little bit.
Front facing hog and anthracite, uniform.
Oh yeah.
That they'll always get. But hey, Adam, this is the first of many episodes. We're going to come back on Sunday. Looking forward to again, and for our audience, the Hog Talk, plug Hog Sports, where they can come and find you over on Facebook. And again, we're going to go to an hour-long show previewing the SEC Media Days on Sunday at 7. So catch us right here. But yeah, Adam, kind of plug your spot and where they can go catch your content out.
Yeah, go find us on Facebook. We are a private group, but a few questions, join the group. We've got close to 20,000 members in the group. We're trying to get to 20 before kickoff. We bring you a lot of quick news, accurate news. There's a lot of conversations going on, daily countdowns leading up to the season of clips, plays, highlights. There's always something to be talked about in the group. So it's definitely, I was in the group when it started with about 30 members, and here we are at almost 20,000. So it's crazy over the last few years how it's taken off. It's a fun time.
Just shows you how passionate this fan base is. But I'm really looking forward to it and really getting to know your fan base and really sharing content and coming and interacting with the people over there on Hog Sports. So I think it's going to be an amazing collaboration and to have like we said before we started recording, having those live shows and having those spots from whether it be the brewing company, Sterling Soap, or a spot in Fort Smith where we can do some post-game reactions, stuff like that. So Hog fans, whether it's on here, Hog Sports, be looking for the latest and breaking news when it comes to the Razorback sports scores. But again, for Adam Hall, I'm Porter Hayes, and we will catch you on Sunday.
Have a good night.